All right, so in your notes, go ahead and write down the definition for similar figures and congruent as you see on the screen. Pause the video, push play when you're ready to go on. Okay, now in your notes, I want you to draw triangle. Okay, this is going to be triangle ABC. So this angle is going to be A, this angle up here is going to be B, and this angle over here is going to be C. Now, I want you to try and draw the same exact triangle, only maybe a little bit bigger. And we're going to call that triangle X, Y, Z. Now, we like to put in math, I use the little slash and the Z's so you guys don't get that mixed up with number 2. Anyway, so angle A is going to be corresponding with angle X. Okay, and this is how we show that they're corresponding, is because angle A has one line with its angle measurement, and angle X has one line for its angle measurement. Angle B is going to get 2 because we already used one line for A. So now we have to double up and use 2 lines for B because angle A and angle B are not equal. So angle B is going to be corresponding with angle Y. Corresponding means that there's just a relationship. That doesn't mean they're equal, or it could mean that they're equal. And then angle C, we're going to use 3 lines because angle C is different from both angle A and B, and yet is corresponding with angle Z because they are the same. And they have a relationship. So, what we need to get in our notes is how to write the corresponding parts. Okay, so this should be a refresher. If it's not a refresher, then you can learn really quickly from here. So, we're going to write angle A. This is the symbol for angle. Let me retry that. Angle A. Make sure it doesn't look like a less than sign, because that one does. Angle A is going to be equal and congruent to angle X. Okay? And then angle B is also equal and congruent to angle Y. Angle C is congruent and equal to angle Z. Okay? Now, once we do this, we also have corresponding lines. So, if you notice, line segment AB is corresponding to line segment XY. Now, these will not be the same measurement because line XY is definitely longer than line AB. So, line segment AB is going to be congruent to line segment XY. So notice how we don't put the equal sign because they're not equal, but they are similar. Okay, so since they're similar and they have a relationship, then we use the congruent symbol. Therefore, BC is going to be congruent to YZ, so BC congruent to YZ. And notice the order in the letters. So if you go B, C in the first one, then you have to go to the corresponding parts and go in the order of Y to Z. And then finally, those corresponding lines. I'm going to go AC and then XZ. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, sorry. These are corresponding angles, and these are corresponding sides. So we have our correct vocabulary here. Okie dokie. Now let's move on. Okay, so in your paper, go ahead and we're going to start actually with example 1. Okay, so for example 1, let's draw this type of triangle. This is going to be called ABC. Okay, and then we have this triangle, but this time it's going to be called D, E, and F. Now, I'm not going to make you write down the corresponding parts, okay? But instead, we're going to use those corresponding parts to help determine different measurements. So, what we're going to add now is an actual measurement of 4 centimeters for line segment AC, and line segment BC is 6 centimeters. Over at the next figure, we have line segment DF as 12 centimeters and line segment EF as X. Now, the reason why corresponding parts are so important is because you can use those corresponding parts to figure out the missing measurement. Okay? So if you remember, AC is congruent to DF. So since those corresponding parts are similar, there is a relationship. So 4 times 3 is what gets you to 12. Okay, so you're going to use the same relationship, and you're going to multiply triangle ABC, all the measurements, by 3 in order to get all the measurements for DEF. Okay, so we're going to take 4 times 3 to get 12. Therefore, 6 times 3 equals 18. Okay? Now, we don't have to worry about line segment A, B, or DE because all we had to do was find X. How we would set that up for high quality work would be to set up the corresponding parts as a fraction or as a proportion. Okay, so here's our proportion setup. I'm going to use the corresponding parts. So AC to DF. Okay, and then BC. Notice how my small triangle is on the top. Okay, you have to make sure order matters here when corresponding parts of different figures. And then our bigger triangle is on the bottom. So line segment EF is going to be down here. Okay, so now that we have our corresponding parts in the correct location, now let's put the numbers in those spots. So 4 is here, 12 is here, 6, and N. So sometimes you will not be able to justify as easy as we did before when we first introduced the problem. Okay, so sometimes you will have to do the proportion setup, okay? Let's call this proportional corresponding sides, okay? So here you would do 4 times n and then 12 times 6. 4n equals 72. Divide by 4, n equals 18. So again, we still get 18. It just takes a little longer because it's just a little longer process, but we need to know that process for future measurements that we can't, do easily in our heads. All right, let's move on. Okay, here's example 2. Go ahead and pause your screen and copy this down into your notes. Push play when you're ready for the explanation. Okay, here is where they're going to start tricking you, okay, by either flipping the figure around, okay, or it's not going to be perfectly corresponding, okay, or perfectly lined up. So here you're going to have to actually do a little work in looking at the corresponding parts. So you can see that angle U is corresponding to angle Z, but they're not in the same location on the left side. Okay, so this is where noting the corresponding parts could be important to help you write it down on paper so you can figure out and not get mixed up trying to do it all in your head. Okay, so let's write down corresponding parts. So we have angle S and angle X. And the only reason why I'm doing these angles is because those are included in the measurements that they're given to us. Angle W, angle R, angle U, angle Z. Okay, so now let's figure out the line segments. Now remember, order matters, okay? So line segment XW, let's do XW, is corresponding with, if we go XW, then it should be SR. Okay? So while we're doing that, let's go ahead and set up our proportions while we're doing that. XW, SR. Okay? And then we have WZ, and WZ is RU. Okay? So WZ and RU. Are you getting this? Haha, just kidding. Okay. Now go ahead and put in the corresponding parts. XW, XW, that's D. SR, 49. And 4 and 28. Solve your proportion. Go ahead and pause your video, solve the rest of it, push play when you're ready for the answers. So if you did this correctly, you get the corresponding missing measurement as 7 feet. Okay? All right, move on.